Rest in peace, Myra Craft. Patriots! This one's for you.
Welcome to Patriots Central Radio with Jeremy Dawson and Steve Balestriei.
New England, what up?
International show report.
Yeah, we on the road. The Pats going ham for the Super Bowl. Brady got the ball and it's all good. Get another ring and it's all good.
And welcome back to Patriots Central Radio. Patriots Central is a proud part of the Pro Football Radio Central Network. I'm your host, Steve Balestriei. Our co-host, Jeremy Dawson, couldn't be here tonight. He had a family function he had to attend, so tonight I'm going at it solo. And tonight we'll be talking a little bit about the Patriots preseason game, with the Detroit Lions. That's going to start in about an hour or so. And we have some special guests to join us tonight, so we're going to jump right into it. Our first guest is a great guy. He's a guy I know really well. His name is Jeff Kane. He's the host of Patriots Goal to Go. It's a radio show on the CLNS radio network. Jeff lives in the Lakes region of New Hampshire, and we are very happy to have him on the show tonight. Jeff, how you doing, my friend?
Steve, I'm doing great. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great every night when there's a football game on TV. Now that the football season is back amongst us, I'm a happy camper. So especially now there's a Pats game tonight. This is one that should be interesting because the last time they played the Lions in the preseason, they kind of got their butts handed to them. And so Bill Belichick has brought that up all week long. And what's your thoughts on tonight's game?
Well, I tell you, this is probably the best game. This is the primer for the regular season. The third preseason game, usually see the starters play into the third quarter. And you're right, 2 years ago, the Detroit Lions really took it to the Patriots. I think it was like 38-10 or 34-10. Brady was sacked, and Ndamukong Suh owned our interior line. So that is something to watch tonight, especially with the line missing its right guard. I don't know if Dan Conley is going to play tonight or not. Will Sebek has done a nice job moving over from tackle, but it's something to be watched, the interior pass rush. If that can screw up the Patriots like it has in the past, that could open up the floodgates.
Absolutely, and we saw it happen a couple of years ago. And the Lions, that's their strength of their defense, is that front four. They have an outstanding front four. But, I was talking earlier today, I wrote a couple of different pieces, and on both of them I said that the guy to watch for the Patriots, I think tonight, will be Shane Vereen. I know everyone's talking about the young wide receivers, but I think Vereen he's kind of like a guy that could counter that front four pass rush because he can slide out of the backfield on a screen to slow them down, or if they do slide him out there on a linebacker, that's a mismatch for the Patriots. Are you looking at Vereen, or are you looking at someone else for the team tonight?
Well, let me just say this. I love Shane Vereen. I've been a huge fan of his since they drafted him in the second round out of Cal. That first year, was kind of a redshirt year because he was injured. Last year, we saw what he could do, especially in the playoff game against the Houston Texans. Unbelievable catch in the end zone on a long pass. 3 touchdowns that game. I love Shane Vereen. The one thing I will look at him tonight is to see if he can pick up that pass rush. One of the things about Danny Woodhead and Kevin Falk before him, they were unbelievable third down backs, but they could also pick up any pass rush and then drop out into the flat and catch a nice little, 2-yard screen pass or 2-yard pass and then turn it into a first down, a 10, 15-yard gain. If Shane Vereen is going to take that next step, which I believe he will, I think you have to look to see how he picks up that blitz.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's a big thing. And, one of the things is as big as LeGarrette Blount is, he's not a very good blitz pickup guy. We watched him all through camp. We were down there. And, he's a big dude. He looks like a linebacker more than a running back. But he's not the best at blitz pickup. But, he does have his own set of skills. And I think he's another guy tonight we'll be looking at to see if he can continue on with that The first couple of weeks of camp, I thought Blunt looked kind of slow and plodding. And then, when the Eagles came around, he picked his game up. He didn't play a heck of a lot against Tampa Bay, but I thought he showed pretty well. He's a guy I'll be looking to as well. I think they're going to try to split the reps up between him and Ridley.
I was very surprised there, Steve, when they brought LeGarrette Blount in on the second play from scrimmage against the Eagles. All camp long, everything you read was that, yeah, he did look a little slow. And then once he breaks out, 9 runs for 108 yards. It was insane. Didn't do as much last week, but still the fact that he's ahead of Brandon Bolden on that depth chart, it seems for touches. What they got for him, trading a 7th-round pick and Jeff Debs, who's, across the seas trying to be a track star right now, it was a no-brainer. He reworked his deal. I'm really excited to see this guy run. I think he's the type of in-between tackle breaker that the Patriots have been lacking since Corey Dillon. All good respect to Stephen Ridley and stuff like this, but this is another guy he can tote the ball on first and second down, give Ridley a little break, and then Bree can come in on third down, Leon Washington come in third down. I'm not saying I'd be surprised if Brandon Bolden made the team. I just think the other 4 backs offer a little more than he did. I haven't seen much out of Brandon Bolden except for a screen pass the first game. Of course, that was kind of nullified after he had a running into the kicker penalty. I'm not a big Brandon Bolden fan, but I'm looking into LeGarrette Blount a lot.
Absolutely. And, Tom Brady all summer long has been razor sharp. The first 2 games of the preseason, he's 18 out of 20, and one of them was a spike. So, people are talking about, how much does he have left in the tank? I haven't seen anything that tells me Tom Brady is on the downside of his career yet. We know that the window's closing, but I think he's still at the very top of his game.
He is like a fine bottle of wine. He just gets better with age. What he has done since the 2007 season, it's unbelievable. They put so much on him the last 5 or 6 years, to put up Peyton Manning type stats, and he just keeps getting better and better every year. Never had a year in his career where he's thrown over 14 interceptions. He's gone over 30 touchdown passes the last few years. Of course, who can forget the 2007 when he had 50? And now with pretty much a whole brand new cast of receivers, he's putting the ball on a dime. The throw that he had on that post to the Denny Amendola the other night was unbelievable. Split the linebacker and the safety. It's unbelievable. Starting at 11 for 11. He's 36 years old, but he looks just as good as he did at 27.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on that one. And, that was the one thing we heard all through the spring and the early summer. Who's Tom Brady going to throw the football to? Well, the answer is everyone, because, we've been down there, training camp every day, and he's spread the ball out. He's been equally spreading it out. Now, some of the guys are getting more reps, obviously, with him now as camp has progressed and they're through 2 preseason games. But everybody who's been on the field, he's thrown them the football, and these young kids have really stepped up. I'm really excited to see what this offense can bring. I still think they might have some growing pains, at least early in the season, but I see this offense at the end of this season being better than the one that they had last year.
Steve, I couldn't agree with you more. If you remember back to the first couple of years of Brady's career, his favorite receiver was the open one. He had that serious NFL commercial where, he talked about with John Madden, what's your favorite receiver? And they were talking about the serious thing, and you see David Givens and Troy Brown and Deion Branch saying, I thought I was his favorite receiver. That's what Brady, that's what Brady used to be, and no knock against him. But he just found the open receiver. And the last few years, it seemed like Wes Welker was that, go-to guy, on big drives. It had to go to Wes Welker. It had to go to Wes Welker. And, nothing against Wes Welker. Did some great things here for 5+ seasons. But, Tom Brady to sit back and find the open guy, couple that with this running game, which I'm really excited about this running game. And I've linked this Patriots team kind of back to the 2003 team, the way the offense was run. Short, quick timing passes by Brady, and some great running game. As long as they can keep it balanced, and get 30 rushes a game. Bill Parcells always used to say, if you can get 30 rushes a game, you're going to usually win that game. I'm really excited about this season, especially with the running backs and this offense, like you said.
Yeah, and that was the one thing that I thought that they showed last week. And again, it's only one preseason game, but Brady mentioned it, during the week when they were doing the joint practices with the Bucs, and he was like, "It's one thing to run the football; it's another thing to run the football when the other team knows you're going to run the football." And I thought they did that, and against a pretty decent front seven of the Buccaneers, I thought they did that last week. And tonight will be another test for that. I think they're going to try to establish the run. I think this is going to be a very balanced team this year. I'm pretty excited about this offense, I have to say. And the young kids, I mean, every day they seem to grow before your eyes. Is there anyone that sticks out for you of the new receivers?
Well, I mean, we've heard all camp long about what Kenbrell Hopkins has brought to this team, and I'm just looking for him to get a little deeper. He's got 5 catches on the preseason for 26 yards. He doesn't have much yak, but he's gotten to the right place and gotten open. I'm looking for him to establish himself more down the field a little bit. Aaron Dawson, he's got all the size you need. That pass that he caught in the middle of the field against the Philadelphia Eagles, I think it was like a 23-yard strike right down the middle. He fought off 2 defenders for it. I'd like to see his hands get a little better. Coming out of college, that was one of the things he said he never dropped a pass. He's had some concentration issues catching the football. I think that could be he's trying to learn the routes and run them as crisp as possible. The other guy that I'm really interested in seeing some more of is Zach Sudfeld, the undrafted rookie free agent tight end out of Nevada. This kid is a baby Gronk. He's come out and, he's not going to replace Rob Gronkowski, but if you can bring in 70% of what Rob was until he's ready to come back, Zach Sudfeld might be the guy to do that, and he has looked crisp and clean catching the ball. That 2-point conversion the other night where he got it out of two defenders was unbelievable. And then the concentration when the ball was knocked away to pick it out of the air and get a touchdown. I'm very excited about him. I want to look at his blocking against this interior and exterior defensive line of the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, another interesting thing about Sudfeld was once Gronkowski does come back, I think the 2 tight end set for the Patriots is going to be really good. I mean, you have a kid. Now, he's not as athletic as Gronkowski, or he doesn't have the quickness of Hernandez did, but, he's a big kid. He's like 6'7", 260. He's a big target, and he can run. And when you put him and Gronkowski on the field, this is it's going to be an interesting offense to try to stop because you're going to have a lot of really big targets out there. You have Gronkowski at 6'6", Sudfeld at 6'7", Dobson at 6'3". This whole thing is metamorphosized right before our eyes. And, with no Amendola tonight, I'm looking for his reps to be kind of split between Edelman and Boyce.
I'd like to see some things out of Boyce. One more thing on Zach Sudfeld. Coming out of Nevada, they ran that pistol offense, and he wasn't always a straight line tight end. One of the things that NFL scouts were looking at with him was the fact that, they weren't sure how he could block because they spent a lot of time out in the slot. So he can be a polished route runner that way. And once Gronkowski does come back, they can do a lot of mismatches. And you brought back Shane Vereen earlier tonight. He can do the same thing. But yeah, I'm looking for Boyce. I'd like to see what Boyce can do. I mean, he only has 3 catches for 9 yards on the preseason. Ryan Mallett missed him wide open in the end zone.
Yes.
He's got a speed. He's a speed burner. I'd like to see what he can do in the slot, and I'd also like to see Julian Edelman. I mean, we saw what he did at the tail end of the beginning of last season. He was really focused in this offense, and being a guy, one of the only guys that has any receiving experience with Tom Brady, he can be relied on. I'd like to see him get some valuable reps tonight.
Yeah, me too. And while we're at it, let's switch to the defense because I think the defense has made some interesting pickups this year. There's still some question marks, but, that's mainly dealing with injuries. But the guy that stands out to me is Tommy Kelly, who's just a big body. And next to Vince Wilfork, he's providing that interior push that they've always been looking for, really since Richard Seymour left, and they haven't had. And he's been really impressive so far this summer.
I couldn't agree with you more there. I mean, Tommy Kelly, he's had, a knack in the past of getting sacks on the quarterback. Last week against the Tampa Bay Bucks, he did not show up on the stat sheet, but he broke in through the middle on Brandon Spikes' first sack and really pushed the pocket to get Brandon Spikes to get the pressure on Josh Freeman. And the week before against Nick Foles, it was him and coming around, breaking through the middle, and Chandler Jones coming around for the sack again. The middle pressure, a guy getting next to Vince Wilfork. You're right. We have not seen that in these parts since Richard Seymour was traded to the Raiders. It's very exciting to see interior pass rush. They're a little thin there, Steve. That's the one thing I'm worried about. They are a little thin at defensive tackle with Vince and Tommy Kelly being the only real veterans. We expected a lot out of Amon Alstead, but of course he had that infection that he was getting looked at, and he's on the non-football injury list. But that's the one thing I'm a little concerned about. Big boys like Vince and Tommy Kelly, they need to be rotated in and out. And so I want to see who steps up to be that next defensive tackle, whether it's Forson or Gresham.
Right, exactly, and that's the one weakness that they have at the tackle position is they're thin there. And last week against the Buccaneers, I thought that the guys who came in afterwards kind of got gashed, especially in the run. That's something we'll have to watch going forward. But I am excited to see Kelly and Jamie Collins. The one thing I took away from last week's game is they put Jamie Collins in man coverage against the tight end. And I can't remember the last time I seen a Patriots linebacker do that. I mean, we've seen him play in zones or whatever, but I can't remember the last time I seen a Patriots linebacker in man against the tight end. And I thought he acquitted himself very well. I think we're looking at our linebacker of the future. I really am. I think that this kid has all the things they're looking for. He has size, speed, and I think, as we see him develop, we're going to see more of a blitzer from him.
I'm looking at him, and last week and the week before, I think Bill Belichick was kind of saying, where can't this kid play? Back-to-back plays, they had him drop into coverage, they had him blitz, and then they had him in man coverage. He's everything that you were looking for in a Bill Belichick-style linebacker. He kind of reminds me a little bit, and I don't want to say it that much, but a little bit of a Teddy Bruschi. Jack of all trades, master of none. Gets at the ball. He's caused fumbles in practice and this and that. I'm really looking forward to this kid, especially in sub packages, to see what he can do to get that speed on the field. And the way that he was brought along in college at Southern Miss. I mean, he started out as a safety, moved to linebacker, then to a rush end. It's really polished him off to do a bunch of different things. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do at linebacker. See if they bring him in a nickel formation, him and Dante Hightower, along with Rob Ninkovich and Chandler Jones, and do a little bit of a NASCAR package there. I think that would be very exciting to watch.
Absolutely. Jeff, I want to thank you very much for coming on tonight. I know you got to get ready to watch the football game, and we really appreciate it. I love talking football with you, my friend. I can do it all night long. But before you go, let people know where they can find you on Twitter and on the internet, and especially about your show, which is outstanding.
Oh, thanks a lot, Steve. It was my pleasure coming on. Again, my name's Jeff Kane. I am the Patriots beat manager for CLNSradio.com, up-and-coming website. We have radio shows as well as written content. I suggest you all check it out. You can follow me on Twitter. It's @BostonFatGuy. And my radio show is Patriots Goal to Go, and that's @Pats Goal to Go, the number 2 for the 2. And we broadcast Sunday nights at 8:30 on CLNSradio.com. And it's been a real pleasure talking to you guys.
Okay, take care, Jeff. Thanks a lot, my friend.
Thanks, Steve.
This is Michael Jonathan.
This is David Nelson.
This is Rob McClain.
This is Antonio Gray.
This is Antonio Brown.
Hi, this is Kyle Rudolph.
On the Pro Football Central Radio Network.
We're here.
And welcome back to Patriots Central. I'm your host, Steve Balestriei, and we just had an interesting guest with Jeff Kane. And Jeff's a good friend, lives up in the Lakes region of New Hampshire, and he hosts a really interesting Pat show. And now we have another special guest to talk with us tonight. Jonathan Comey is a reporter and a writer for the South Coast Today. He's written about the Patriots. He's written about actually lots of stuff. And we're pleased to have him on. Jonathan, how are you this evening?
Thanks for having me on. I was listening to Jeff a little bit. It's really amazing in this region just how many people we have covering the Patriots, and really like everybody just does a good job. People just know their football around here. The fans, the media coverage. It's always good to hear some thoughtful football talk.
Yeah, it was funny because when we were at training camp this year, a bunch of us who blog and write and do podcasts and all this, we all got together one Saturday afternoon after training camp.
Yeah.
And we took up the whole rooftop of Bar Louie's over there at Patriots. And it was really interesting because people that you know and you tweet with, all the time, but you've never really met, and we all got to have lunch together. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's talk some Patriots because
Sure.
I know the game is getting ready to start here shortly.
Yep.
What do you think about the acquisition of Danny Amendola this year? I know a lot of people were wringing their hands when Wes Welker left that, the Patriots offense was going to go down the tubes, and to me, Danny Amendola, has stepped in almost seamlessly so far.
Well, I've loved Amendola. His second year in the league with the Rams, they basically gave the guy the Welker treatment where he must have got hit 250 times. He had something like 55 punt returns, 50 kick returns. They threw about 100 balls to him. I kind of fell in love with him when he was kind of toiling for the Rams. So I liked him a lot. Welker, to be honest with you, he kind of had a down year last year, I thought. As much as he moved the chains, he was top 5 in the league in drops 2 years in a row. And with the amount of damage he's taking, I don't think anyone has probably given more to a team than a guy like Welker could over 5 years. So I think that to a certain extent, I think he felt like he was owed more than the Patriots, with their kind of all business attitude, felt like he was worth. And I think that privately they were probably fairly happy with the swap of Amendola for Welker. I don't know if Tom Brady was, but you're getting a guy with less wear on the tires. Yes, he has been injured, but you really can't project that going forward unless it's a chronic, this guy's got a knee injury that never healed. Something like that is one thing, but yeah, I love Amendola on this offense. I certainly think he's going to put up similar numbers to what Welker did.
I couldn't agree more. Going down there every day, watching it, it seems like he's been in this offense not 2 months, but 2 years.
Yeah, and he's, I think he's a guy that I think he's someone that it's going to change. He's going to change the minds of Patriots fans pretty quickly. If he hasn't already. I think any of the hand-wringing, I think once you see Wes Welker in the Denver colors and you see Amendola produce, I don't think it's going to take too much more than a week for the tide to turn pretty quickly on that. Unless he does get hurt, and then it's going to be, I told you so, but that's part of the game.
Yeah. One of the things I was reading that you wrote just the other day was about Brandon Spikes, and I found that really interesting, and I'd like for you to maybe share a little bit with our listeners, because I thought it was a nice piece. Well,
I think Spikes, with the type of defense that they play, you expect, you wonder if Spikes can be he really should be the leader of that defense, but he's a bit of a loose cannon. I don't know if you follow his Twitter stuff at all, but some of the stuff he's come out with over the last year is just kind of like outrageously hilarious. He's got a big personality. He's got a lot of talent. He was a guy that, was a top 10 type of talent, but just didn't quite have the measurables, and the attitude kind of turned some people off. And as much as Will Fork, I mean, no one's gonna lead quite like Will Fork does, and he is a fantastic team leader. He's also 30, 31, 32. I think he's been a little overrated over the last couple of years. I think because there's no one to really hang your hat on, he kind of gets more credit. He's one of the guys, kind of like an Ndamukong Suh. Like when he makes a great play, he gets maybe a little bit more credit than he deserves for it. But I think it's really his leadership that's more. But the on-field play, at some point, you need Spikes to step forward and really set the tone for that defense. And I think that maybe this is the year where he kind of grows up enough to do it. I do think that there's a chance that the Patriots switch gears a bit and don't rely quite so heavily on let's just force 2 turnovers. Let's force 2 turnovers a game, and if we do that, we're going to win the game because our offense is so good. I think they found when the playoff comes along, well, that doesn't work so good when you only force 1, or if Tom Brady has, dares to have an off game, you really don't have much chance to win. So I guess I just have a gut feeling that Spikes is going to play a bigger role this year and really be more of the, the focal point.
Yeah, and that was the thing. A lot of people were down on him because he skipped the non-mandatory workouts, and he was working out in Florida trying to get a little bit more speed, under the wheels this year because
Right.
he wants to be that 3-down linebacker, and he wants to get paid. Basically, he's up for a new contract this year.
Right, and when you come in as a second-round pick, you're not. I mean, none of these guys are starving, but you don't make the big money. You need to make. You need to capitalize and make that big money in a contract year. I mean, you only have really one chance. And I don't think that necessarily means that, it's a contract year, all of a sudden I'm going to wake up and play to my potential. But, the light comes on for guys never. Some guys figure it out. Some guys have to be motivated by something other than their coach. So I guess my gut says that maybe Spikes, let's put it this way, I think Spikes needs to be that player if this team is going to take that step forward that has kind of been lacking,
Yeah, and, he's that kind of guy that they've lacked the last couple of years as well. He's that intimidator. He's that kind of raw.
Right. And I do feel I think that is, I guess having watched the Patriots, I've been covering them since Pete Carroll's first year, so I've been around, seen a lot of it, and I always, when I can't figure something out with why they're doing something the way they're doing, I tend to put myself in saying, well, okay, I'm going to go ahead and assume that Bill Belichick probably knows a bit more about the game than I do. And I try to figure out, well, what is he doing? And I think that the passiveness you see from that defense at times, it really is part of their plan. It's just, they thrive because they just don't turn it over. He's coaching it as a team game, and he's saying, look, our offense, we got to play to our offensive strength, which is we don't turn the ball over. And if we turn you over, the game is, when they're +2 in a turnover, if they've ever lost, I don't know. They probably, and it's all the time. So I think that a guy like Spikes is built for a team that's going to attack and try to drop you for a loss more, and try to, keep you on third down more than the team that's going to allow the dinks and dunks and let you go up and down the field. So I think that that could play in his favor. But I'd love to see it happen because I think he brings something that they don't otherwise have.
And that was going to lead into my next point is that, the other guy they brought in this year was kind of under the radar signing. He's a safety, and I was at the practice on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And he looks like a linebacker, and that's Adrian Wilson. He's enormous for a safety, and he's that other guy. In sub packages they like to, bring in that safety that can play as a linebacker. He's tailored for this position this year.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Wilson. I don't think that. I guess I still don't consider him to be a lock to make the team. They have brought in guys, at that stage in their careers in the past. Some of them have fit in. Some of them are kind of wow, I can't believe they cut him. There was a pretty big erosion of his skills in Arizona last year, from what I could tell. he does bring that. I mean, you wonder if they are going to have him do that, but you also wonder if the game values a guy like that less and less. And with so many young guys at that position that they've invested picks in, I guess I'm waiting to see what they do with him. He's a real wild card to me. He could be a guy who could be a real leader, or he could be a guy that gets cut. So I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked to see him get cut. I wouldn't be surprised to see him make an impact. So that's about where I'm at with him.
Yeah, I was watching him a lot during the camp this year, and it looks to me like they're going to play him because they play so much in sub packages anyway.
Right.
They're going to use him more as a linebacker, and in the box as they would as like a traditional type safety role. And
Sure,
I'm sure he'll play a little bit of that, but I think he's going to be a lot as a linebacker.
That's definitely possible. I mean, some of the projections I'm seeing have them keeping 5 linebackers only. In that scenario, it's almost like he might be fighting for a job against a guy like Tarpinian or one of these special teams guys that can play linebacker. I see that a lot with maybe it's not. I think Belichick does it more than other teams where it's your position flexibility can give you that extra roster spot, and maybe with Wilson, maybe that is the difference for him.
Absolutely. And let's switch gears and go to the offense here real quick.
Sure.
Tom Brady, I think, has been razor sharp through the first two.
He's definitely going to make the team. I think Brady.
Yeah, I
think we can count him in.
I think he's pretty much of a lock, but
yeah, I think so.
Behind him, I thought Ryan Mallett, his first series last week, he was kind of shaky, but then he turned it on, and I thought he played really well. He's a guy I'm going to be looking for in the second half tonight to make that next step.
Yeah, it's funny. I get into a lot of arguments with people on Mallett. I guess for me, maybe it's something I'm missing. I just don't see it in him. I guess I don't see him as being having the type of leadership. He kind of reminds me of Cutler a little bit in the way he carries himself and kind of that kind of false bravado. He misses the pass, and instead of looking pissed off, he kind of like does that little grin, like, "Oh man, can you believe that? We'll get it next time." Something about him it doesn't seem like Brady has really rubbed off on him. He doesn't have that same like intensity I see in some of the other guys. I just feel like when you're the backup quarterback, your preseason games, they're like your Super Bowl, and he just has never looked sharp to me. So, but you look at Tebow, and he certainly gives you more than that. So it's I guess I've always advocated for the Patriots to bring in a veteran kind of grown up behind Brady, just if nothing else, just to give him someone to talk to. He hasn't had anybody there for so long, but they kind of, they tend to like their mascot third quarterbacks too. They had Vinny and they had Flutie and now Tebow. So it's kind of, I don't really know. I guess I do second guess Belichick a bit on this, but when Brady goes down, if he goes down, all bets are off anyway. So it doesn't, you have to so radically rethink what you're doing that, I think it almost.
Absolutely. And, going to Tebow, because that was going to lead into my next question anyway, was, this was a guy that I could never understand them signing because he doesn't fit the Patriots offense. I mean, if the Patriots ran some kind of a pistol offense or a read option or something, I could see where they would want to work with him. But, his strengths don't fit to what the Patriots offense is. And his biggest weaknesses.
When they signed Tebow, I like the move because it's no risk. I always felt though that I still would be a little bit surprised if they cut him, just because I almost feel like they wouldn't have signed him without some expectation that he was there to develop long term. Almost, let's see what we can do with him with 2 years in our program. Let's see if he can, at the end of that 2 years, be someone who we say, oh, you know what, let's re-sign this guy for another year, and let's see where we're at with Tom, and maybe he's the guy. I think that is their plan with him, not let's put him in sub-packages, but just really long-term development. But he's also 25 or even 26 this year, so it's a puzzler. Maybe they'll use him on some special teams. It seems like a waste of a roster spot when you got, he is a tight end's approximate size. I mean, he really is. I mean, but it's not just as easy as saying, "Hey, Tim Tebow is good at football. Go play tight end." There's a lot more to that position than that. So well, it'll be interesting to see with him. I mean, they do have some pretty intriguing decisions to make this cut down day.
Absolutely, because that's something, and a lot of fans, they just see the preseason game. But, if you go down to practice every day, they've invested a lot of time and effort into this guy. Because whenever he's not on the field, they have him off to the side working with Brian Daboll. He's working one-on-one with them. They put in these packages for him. This isn't a guy they're just going to toss out, I don't think, out of hand unless, other issues raise themselves with injuries or whatnot, and they're forced.
And even the way that Tebow has kind of responded to it, not that he's been controversial, but I think that he has a sense. I don't know if there was a handshake deal. I don't think they do that type of thing, but I think that there was some understanding before he came here that, barring something really unexpected, he was going to be on the roster.
So what are you looking for tonight out of the Patriots offense?
Well, I mean, they certainly have looked sharp. I mean, I'm interested to see what type of rotation they use for receivers. Is Tompkins going to be the guy who ends up starting that's alongside Amendola? Is Sudfeld, does he have all of what it takes for them to, consider cutting either Fells or I'm not even going to try to say his name. I don't get paid. I don't get paid enough to have to try to pronounce his name, but we know who I'm talking about.
Uman.
Uman. There you go. Yeah, that's better. I mean, I kind of love the legend of Tompkins. I really like the idea of seeing him emerge as that they bring this guy in off the street and everyone's wringing their hands, and he ends up with 175 catches, 1,000 yards, that type of thing. So, I mean, I thought for sure that Brandon Lloyd was going to end up back on this team, that he was maybe waiting, and maybe they were waiting to take a look and see how they were. But, I mean, Lloyd's out of the league, I guess. I thought he was pretty good last year. I'm a little surprised by that. But, so I'm interested to see Tompkins. The running game is, I think it's just going to be real strong. So you just look for everyone to stay healthy and get out of there with an intact roster and see what everyone can do. But I don't think it's a particularly meaningful game for too many guys.
No, the only other thing I'm interested in, I did read just a few minutes ago that Devin McCourty's in uniform, and he probably will play tonight. And I'm anxious to see how the safety play, rolls out tonight, because I think a couple of times that we've seen in the first two games, the safety help was a little slow in getting there. Now, he wasn't in there.
Yeah, I mean, McCourty really is. I mean, he was. I thought he was fantastic last year. Preseason is. I have a very hard time judging the defense in preseason because as much as the offense, I feel like the defense is so vanilla that it's almost like it's unfair to judge the defense even more than it is to judge the offense, just because it's just tough to know what they're thinking. The offense, that they're basically putting their offense in. But so you look for more like, well, wow, what does the guy look like? Like you guys are talking about Jamie Collins. Like, what does he look like? Does he look like he can play? But yeah, it'd be nice to see what he can do tonight. It'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. And Collins is another intriguing guy. I think, they're throwing a lot on his plate. They're seeing what he can do and what he can do well. And I think, I think the sky's the limit on this kid. I think he has a lot of potential. He's still pretty raw.
Yeah.
But what we've seen down there at camp every day is he's soaking it all up like a sponge, and he's willing to do whatever they need him to.
Yeah, well, he's kind of a classic Patriots draft pick, Maybe a guy that got projected to be picked, 20 picks later, but the Patriots like because he's got the physical tools, he's got the mental makeup, and that's what they value, that's what they pick. And I mean, generally, obviously, sometimes they go for home run guys like, Gronk or Hernandez was, but I mean, in general, they're looking for smart, players that have the skills, and they say, hey, we can teach these guys to play, and usually they're right, sometimes they're not. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, Jonathan, we thank you very much for your time tonight. We really enjoyed it, and
all right.
And hopefully we'll see you back here real soon. Jonathan, let our readers know and our listeners where they can find you on Twitter and on the internet.
Well, I actually, I don't know if you know the site called Hard Football Facts. I do quite a bit of writing for them. SouthCoastToday.com is where most of my Patriot stuff is. I do have a Twitter handle, although for whatever reason I'm hopelessly addicted to Facebook. But my Twitter handle is Colonel Comey. It's Colonel Comey. My sporadic tweets could be found there, but better off checking me out. Just a Google search, image search, look at pictures of me. I'm a devastatingly handsome man, so that helps.
And that's what I tell my friends all the time. I have a face made for radio.
Yeah, right. All right, thank you.
Football fans, check out ProFootballCentral.com for all the latest NFL news and analysis. Also, check out the very popular Pro Football Central radio network for awesome NFL talk around the league. Go to ProFootballCentral.com. ProFootballCentral.com.
And welcome back to Patriots Central. We'd like to wrap it up tonight because I know all of our fans will be anxious to watch the Patriots take on the Lions. Thank you for listening to Patriots Central. You can listen to any of our episodes by clicking on Patriots Central off of the Pro Football Central main page. You can follow me on Twitter at SteveB7SFG. And for my co-host, Jeremy Dawson, and myself, Steve Balestriei, thank you for listening to Patriots Central.
This has been a presentation of the Pro Football Central Network. For news, blogs, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.